Have you ever wondered just what it means when you hear the term genetically modified foods? Along those same lines, have you ever thought about how genetically modified foods are developed? Each of those questions are quite interesting to think about, given that some of the foods we eat may have been genetically modified. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, genetically modified foods are those that have been modified via genetic engineering or other more traditional methods in order to produce heritable improvements in plants or animals for specific uses. In other words, they are foods that have been modified at the gene level to produce a desired trait that would most likely not occur through natural processes. So, just what processes are involved in genetically modifying foods? Why is genetically modifying foods not the same process as cloning? You may think that genetically modifying foods is the same process as cloning. This belief is not correct. Cloning involves making an exact genetic copy of an organism. All of the genetic information is identical between those two organisms. In contrast, genetically modified food can be produced by gene cloning methods. However, the protein in the genetically modified organism has been modified somewhat so that the host or modified organism will express the desired trait. Thus, the genetically modified organism is not necessarily an exact replica of the donor organism. Why is injecting hormones into a plant or animal not required for producing genetically modified foods? Instead of cloning, you may think that injecting hormones into a plant or an animal is involved in the production of genetically modified foods. This belief is also incorrect. Injecting hormones into a plant or animal can increase its growth rate or its size. However, injecting hormones does not modify the genetic makeup of the plant or animal. In contrast, genetically modified foods have had some of their characteristics changed at the gene level. Now you know that genetically modified foods are those foods that have had some of their genetic information changed or new DNA added or suppressed. What non-laboratory processes can cause the development of genetically modified food? You may think that development of genetically modified foods occurs only in laboratories by scientists. Not so. Genetic modifications may happen through natural processes. For example, one type of a natural process for genetic modification of plants is cross-pollination. Cross-pollination occurs when the pollen from one plant is crossed with the pollen of a second plant. Corn plants are often cross-pollinated through wind transport, which occurs when the wind carries pollen from one corn crop to a second corn crop in nearby fields. When corn plants of different varieties are cross-pollinated, the seeds they produce will be genetically different than the original corn plants. The corn produced by these cross-pollinated plants is a combination of the two varieties of corn. The corn seeds from the new cross-pollinated plant will carry new genetic information. That new genetic information will continue to be a part of that plant's offspring. Since it is the case that genetically modified foods can occur through natural processes, you may wonder just how long genetic modification of foods has been taking place. What methods to genetically modify foods have been used other than those used by contemporary scientific research? You may hold the belief that genetically modified foods are only a product of contemporary scientific research. This belief is not correct. For many centuries, farmers and gardeners have used cross-pollination of plants in an attempt to produce plants or flowers that would have particular qualities. For example, farmers have used selective pollination of plants in hopes of producing sweeter fruits or more colorful flowers. Even today, farmers and gardeners use cross-pollination in hopes of producing sweeter corn or more colorful decorative corn. In summary, genetically modified foods are those foods that have had some of their genetic information changed. Some foods can be genetically modified through natural processes, such as cross-pollination. Farmers have used the process of genetically modifying foods for centuries as they attempt to develop plants with desired characteristics.